Hi, this is your host, Kristen Howe. I'm so excited to welcome you to our call with today's guest, Dr. Alex Loyd. Dr. Alex Loyd is a #1 best-selling author and has been featured live on NBC, ABC, CBS, Fox, and PBS news programs as an expert in healing the source issues underlying illness and disease. He has a PhD in psychology and a doctorate in natural medicine and has built one of the largest practices in the world with clients in 50 states, 143 countries, and counting. So he has an amazing, amazing reach. Dr. Alex's healing processes were the subject of a PBS special, and he has been seen in USA Today, People, Time Magazine, and many other print media publications. In today's call, this is going to be really exciting because on the call today, you will discover how you can be healthy and happy effortlessly. You'll discover what the medical industry has known for years but doesn't talk about because they don't have a solution. You'll find out what's really at the source of both physical and emotional problems, and you'll discover that this source that will reveal to you of both physical and emotional problems is like a programmed switch and how you can flip the switch in your favor. So this is so exciting. Dr. Alex Loyd, thank you so much for joining us, and welcome to this call.
Kristen, it's always a pleasure. You're one of my favorite people to be with, so it's an honor to be with you today.
Well, I'm so excited to be able to share you with everybody, and I would love if you could start off by sharing a little bit of your story, maybe some of the transitions that you experienced to manifest the high levels of success that you have today.
Yeah, sure. Before I get to my story, let me give you a reason to keep listening. If you're on the line right now, I know how valuable your time is. So let me give you a reason to keep listening. And if you decide after what I'm going to say in just a couple of minutes here that this isn't worth your time, then that's cool with me. But at least you know what you're going to get, okay? As Kristen said, we're going to be focusing on health today. But if you're a success-oriented person, I'm going to keep you here because the thing that keeps you from being successful is the same thing that causes your health problems. And so in 9 out of 10 people, when they fix this internal cause of their health problems, they go through the roof in their success as well. Okay? So if you're here and that's the big thing in your life, let me tell you, this is absolutely for you, just like it is the people who are here because they've got health problems. And here's the problem, okay? In 1971, President Richard Nixon declared war on cancer. All right? At that time, cancer was the 8th leading cause of death in the United States and around the world. And most of the other countries of the world joined with the United States. Okay, yeah, us too. We are declaring war on cancer too. And so all the best hospitals and best doctors around the world joined put all their heads together, their resources together to eradicate cancer, which was the 8th leading cause of death. So we have been waging that war on cancer with all of those resources and all the breakthrough research, and we're getting smarter all the time, and we're making breakthroughs all the time. And guess what? Cancer's gone from the 8th leading cause of death to the number 2 leading cause of death. And a lot of experts are saying that in the next couple of years, it's going to become number 1. Okay? So to me, that does not sound like we're winning that war. Okay? It's not just cancer. In that same 40-year time period, the diagnoses for almost any other health issue you can name have skyrocketed. The amount of money spent on almost any other diagnosis you can name has skyrocketed, etc. And things are still getting worse instead of better. Now, for those of us who are more in the natural health area, we want to raise our hand, in that classroom and say, yeah, but. And the yeah, but is, well, if we had only been doing natural health, herbs and minerals and supplements and things like that, instead of the cut, burn, and poison of standard medicine, that would never have happened. We would have beaten cancer, and we would be that'd have been totally different. It's because of standard medicine. Well, wait a minute. My question to that is, are we going to speak the truth and be honest today, or are we playing games? Well, I want to tell you, I'm tired of playing games. And the reason I got into what I'm doing today is because I don't want to play any more of those games. And so here's the truth about that. And very few people know this because a lot of people tried to keep this information suppressed. In the year 2000 was the first year in the history of Western medicine that people spent dollar for dollar as much on what you would call complementary medicine and care as they did on standard medical care, and the average person was just as likely to see a complementary or alternative practitioner as they were their family primary care medical doctor. It absolutely, in the year 2000, shook the standard medicine world to its core. That became the topic of the AMA convention in the United States in that year 2000. And what you got to understand is that tidal wave of natural health started at least 15 years before that. So, guys, we're looking at about 30 years almost that we've been on a natural health tidal wave. And everybody knows that. I mean, you go into Kroger, you go into any supermarket now, and they have a supplement section and an organic section and all that sort of thing. So, to be honest, even though I have a doctorate in natural medicine and I believe in that and I take supplements every day and all that sort of thing, if we're going to be honest, that can't be the only culprit, or we would have seen a dramatic turnaround in the last 20 years or so with this boom of natural health. But, ladies and gentlemen, we haven't. Okay? Now, to give you a little more ammunition on this topic, lest you maybe don't quite believe me yet, in 2003, the top executive at GlaxoSmithKline, the pharmaceutical monster, the worldwide VP of genetics, Dr. Alan Roses, says that for more than 90% of all drugs, they only work on 30 to 50% of people. Over 90% of all drugs, they only work on 30 to 50%. In the United States, the odds of being killed by standard medicine are 20 times or 2,000% greater than being killed in an automobile accident, and 30 times or 3,000% greater than being killed by a gun. Dr. Roses, the geneticist at Duke, says that drugs for Alzheimer's work in fewer than 1 in 3 people, cancer less than 1 in a quarter, and migraines in less than half. And just a few months ago in 2012, 60 Minutes did a major blockbuster expose on the pharmaceutical industry, and they interviewed Dr. Irving Kirsch, a medical doctor from Harvard, who said that basically, if you watch the interview, and you can still watch it online, antidepressants don't work. And then he goes on to say it's not just antidepressants, our drugs for so many problems don't work. And when they ask him, okay, well, if these things don't work, what do we do? You know what his solution was? And this just absolutely blew me away, Kristen. He said we need to start prescribing placebos, sugar pills.
Whoa.
For all of these problems, because they work just as well or better than the drugs that are so expensive and have all the terrible side effects. And I'm almost done with this. In 1983, Andrew Weil, in his best-selling book, Health and Healing, said, you might write this one down if you're listening, all illness is psychosomatic. Now, he didn't mean it's not real. Some people think psychosomatic means it's not real. That's not at all what he meant. And if you read the book, you'll see that. What he means is it's not physical. So he says all illness is not physical at its origin and should be healed at that non-physical source origin if we really want to treat sources versus symptoms. And that's what we're going to talk about today, ladies and gentlemen, is what is that non-physical source of all health and illness, which is also the source of your failure. It's kind of a 2-4. You fix one of them and you usually get both, the health and the success. So thank you for Kristen letting me take that little detour. If you want me to talk about my story now, I'll be happy to go into that.
Yeah, I mean, it's up to you. I think it's helpful. Everybody obviously knows who you are. You've been around for a while. But, yeah, just to hear a little bit of how this has affected your life personally, I think is a really great thing for everybody to hear.
Yeah. You know, I'm not a great speaker, ladies and gentlemen, but I'm passionate, and I'm sure you can hear that. Some people say I sound like a used car salesman, and that makes me cringe a little bit. I hope I don't come across quite that way. But let me tell you why I'm passionate, okay? I'm passionate because of where this came from in my life, all right? In 1986, I married one of the most beautiful ladies on the planet, both of us believing that our life was going to be happily ever after, okay? Her name was Tracy. She's since changed her name to Hope because of the transformation that happened in her life. And we got married in May of 1986, and less than 3 years later, both of us wanted a divorce. And boy, it still makes me cringe to say that. I know it happens every day, but it still brings me so much pain because today, 26 years later, I am happier with Hope, that same lady, than I had ever imagined I could be. So when I say that to you today, it makes me hurt a little bit because I think, man, I could have lost her. I could have, lost this love of my life through this thing that I'm talking about. And so after visiting 3 doctors in 1989, we found out that Tracy, that was her name then, was severely depressed. And Kristen, the doctor said, you hear the word depression a whole lot these days. Well, there's depression and then there's depression. Well, this is the big bad bear of depression. It's called major general depression. It's genetic. She will have it until the day she dies. There is no cure anywhere, no matter what anyone tells you. That's the bad news. But the good news, we can manage it with medications. Well, we had been through the nightmare already for the last 3 years. I mean, I could tell you stories that would make you hang up the phone right now because you would say, oh, I just can't take any more of that. That's terrible. Well, that was our life for 3 years. We were in our 20s. And other friends of ours, were going out to movies and, hey, what are we going to do this weekend? Let's grill out. Hey, let's go on a long weekend trip, in a couple of weekends. Well, for Tracy and I, there was none of that. Every day was, are we going to make it through this day with sweat and blood and gritting our teeth? And some days we would just barely make it through. Tracy took a depression test during that time in the back of a book she was reading. And she scored in the suicidal range, which really got me because I knew she was depressed, but I didn't know she was that bad. And so I started looking through how she'd answered the questions. And there was one question that said, every day I think about wanting to die.
Wow.
And she had checked yes every day. And I had never heard her say anything like that. So I took the book. As soon as I read that, Kristen, I ran to where she was in the house with the book. And I said, Tracy, surely you answered this question wrong. This is not right. And she looked at the question, and she just started weeping, and she said, yeah, it is right. She said, every single day on the way home, I think I could just turn the car over into that embankment, and all the pain would be over. Well, Kristen, for years now, I've worked with a lot of people who are like stage 4 cancer and other diseases. I mean, really, really sick. And they all want to live. Tracy wanted to die every day. And so that's just to give you a thumbnail of what our life was like. Well, the antidepressants didn't work for her. We tried them. Her side effects were worse than the benefit that she got. She had some horrible side effects. So we knew that was not going to be the long-term solution for her. So we had a recommitment ceremony for our marriage, decided we were truly in it for better or worse. That's where this started for me, was out of one part desperation and one part love. And we started on a 12-year journey to try to find a cure for her depression. Now, we had no idea it was going to be 12 years. I don't know if we would have signed up for it if we had known that. But that's what it ended up being. And Kristen, when you introduced me and talked about, my 2 doctorates, well, what everybody needs to know who's listening to this is not one whit of those doctorates were a career path. Oh, hey, I think I can make a good living doing this. Had nothing to do with that. It was, I'm going to try to become an expert in depression to cure Tracy's depression. Now, that didn't work. I didn't find the solution there, but that's where that came from. And so 12 years into that, I'm out. I have a private practice doing counseling and therapy. My practice is going very, very well, but Tracy's still depressed. And I'm in Los Angeles Airport. I had been there for a seminar, and my cell phone rang. And I picked it up, put it to my ear, and I heard one word, Kristen. Only one, just one word. When I heard this word, my knees buckled, and if I hadn't put my hand down, I would have fallen on the carpet. I sweated through my clothes. I was in an air-conditioned building, and I went from being cool and dry to soaked and dripping with sweat in about 60 seconds. And I had those sharp, prickly needle chills all over my body for about 60 seconds. The word was high. H-I. Big bad word, right?
Yeah.
But I knew as soon as I heard it, I knew what was going on. Okay, it was Tracy. She was at home in Tennessee, and she was having a horrible depressive episode. She hadn't had one like this in a long time. And she was locked in the bedroom, sitting on the floor in the corner in her nightgown with a blanket pulled over the top of her head, weeping where she had been sitting all night long, paralyzed and unable to move. Kristen, she was trying to talk to me. She literally couldn't get words to come out of her mouth. And so it just absolutely crushed me. It just broke my heart because she's the sweetest, most wonderful lady. And by that time, we were deeply, deeply in love, and things were great between the two of us. So I just tried to encourage her, said, honey, I love you. I'm on the way home. I'm going to take care of you. We're going to find a solution to this. We're not going to stop until we do. You can make it. I'll be home in 3.5 hours. Anything I could think of to try to encourage her. And then the plane took off, and, of course, the stewardess had made me put my phone up. And when the plane got stable up at about 35,000 feet, I did what I'd done every day for 12 years. I prayed for Tracy that she would be healed. That's it. I wasn't praying for anything else than that she would be healed. And what happened next had never happened to me before, and it's not ever happened to me since. I had an experience. I had a revelation. I don't know what to call it. I still today don't know what to call it. And I've been telling the story for 10 years, 11 years now. I did not hear heavenly music. I didn't see angels or anything like that. There wasn't mist floating through the air. There was nothing that seemed mystical to me. But what did happen is that I saw in my mind's eye, and I knew it was in my mind's eye, but I saw in my mind's eye as if it were written on the wall, the blueprint of a healing system that I'd never seen, heard about, or studied. And by that time, I'd been into this 12 years, 2 doctorates, traveling all over the world. I was an expert in depression if I was nothing else. And I had never seen anything like this. It wasn't anything from the standard medicine side. It wasn't acupuncture. It wasn't Reiki. It wasn't yoga. It wasn't affirmations. It wasn't meditation. It wasn't, today, the one thing we've never heard from the people all over the world that use the healing codes is I've seen this before. Have never heard it once, okay? It was a totally unique, one-of-a-kind system. And for the next 3 hours, I took dictation, literally. At one point, a couple hours in, I forgot where I was, and I said, God, you're either going to have to slow down or remind me of this. I can't write that fast. And so I took it all down, got home, did it on Tracy. Her depression was gone in 45 minutes. Now, her depression came back. I don't want to mislead anybody. Her depression came back. But by the time she had done what we now call the healing codes for 3 weeks, okay, just took 3 weeks, it was gone and never came back again. It's been almost 12 years now since then. On Monday morning, I took it into my private practice, and it did exactly what it had done with Tracy, and it did what I had expected it to do after all that. People with depression, anxiety, whatever, were saying it was gone in very short order, some in one day, and some more like Tracy in a few weeks, but everybody was having healing. What I hadn't expected started about 6 weeks later, when a sweet lady came in and said, Dr. Loyd, I need to talk to you, and had this real serious look on her face. And I said, well, sure. She come on into my office. What can I do for you? And she told me that her MS, her multiple sclerosis, had been healed. And I argued with her. I mean, I celebrated with her, but then I argued with her because she was saying it was these things. They weren't called the codes then. They were called these things. And I argued with her because I said, no, that's only for emotional stuff. And she said, well, all I can tell you is my symptoms started going away the very first day, and I haven't done anything else different. And I just drove to your office from Vanderbilt Hospital, where they ran all the tests, and the doctors came in scratching their head and said, we have no explanation for this, but it's as if you never had MS. Wow. We don't know what's going on. And then a couple of weeks later, I heard a similar story about cancer and then diabetes. And then one of the most famous medical doctors on the planet, the only medical doctor in The Secret who was healed of ALS. After he was healed, he resigned from the cancer clinic in Atlanta where he was the director and started traveling all over the world telling people about the healing codes. He said, this is what I've been searching for all of my professional life. Well, after a few months of that, I realized that the healing codes were way beyond what I'd been searching for, which was just something for emotional issues. But I also knew, Kristen, that people were not going to believe this just because I said it, because it sounds like, I know it, it sounds like another one of those things that overpromises and underdelivers, that sounds too good to be true. You get taken in, you spend your money on it, and sure enough, it was too good to be true. And how did I fall for it again? So I knew we had to prove it. So we spent the next year and a half testing the healing codes with state-of-the-art mainstream medical tests. It's called heart rate variability. It's in every hospital. It measures the exact state of the autonomic nervous system. And the results of that year and a half of testing were unprecedented in the history of medicine to this day, as far as I know. In fact, what we did most medical doctors would tell you was impossible before we did it. And then we spent another year and a half figuring out how to package the healing codes so that people wouldn't have to get an airfare ticket and fly to Nashville, Tennessee, and sit in my waiting room and pay for food and all that sort of thing, but they could do it at home in their pajamas. And so on June the 6th, 2004, we released the healing codes for the very first time. We did it out of my basement with very little money and not a nickel. In fact, we've never spent a nickel on advertising. So we knew this is either going to work by word of mouth or it's not. And I'm going to say one more thing, and then I'm going to turn it back to you, Kristen. When you introduced me, you said I've been featured live on ABC, NBC, CBS, Fox, PBS news programs. Those are not infomercials or commercials. Those are interviews live on news programs, okay? The reason that's so significant to me is a lot of times when I lecture about the healing codes, which is in a category of natural medicine that's called energy medicine, that's a real new cutting-edge area. But when I ask people, okay, when is the last time you saw somebody like me with something similar to the healing codes interviewed live on ABC, NBC, CBS, Fox, etc. news programs? You know how many hands usually go up?
How many?
Usually none. Because, and here's why, ladies and gentlemen, because they don't put things like this on those programs. They don't interview things like this on those programs. They just don't. Now, they'll interview Dr. Oz and this medical doctor at this university or this medical doctor at this university, but they don't put things like this on those programs. So why did they put us? Here's why. They put us through the ringer for a year and a half. I mean, Kristen, almost down to what kind of toothpaste do I use? They looked at our credentials, our research, our testimonials. They talked to people who healed of ALS. They talked to people who healed of cancer and diabetes and MS, all that sort of thing. They looked at the process itself. They tested it. I mean, you name it, they did it because they don't want egg on their face. You know,
sure.
Yeah, you introduced this guy as an expert in healing the underlying source of illness and disease. This is a scam. This works on one person out of two. They are not going to do that. They're not going to put their reputation on the line like that. So it wasn't until they were absolutely convinced that this works consistently on virtually every person every time that they put us on those programs. And I just wanted people to know how significant that is because they don't put things like this on those programs. The only reason they did with us is because they knew this works. If you look on Amazon at ratings, okay, up to 5-star ratings, we have a higher rating than virtually anyone in our field, including Dr. Oz, including Andrew Weil, including these big-time, big-name medical doctors. We have a higher rating than all of them. So that's where we came from, and that's why you're hearing me today, because we were going to sink or swim by word of mouth, and that's what's happened.
Wow. I love it, and I love how you came upon this because you did. You discovered it out of a passion for something that was happening in your life. So I think that's so important, and I think that really speaks to so many people. That's one of the reasons I am so excited about sharing you with people. So tell me this. We've talked about, one of the things I mentioned is that there is a source of both physical and emotional problems, and that source it's actually like a switch, and you can actually
Right.
flip the switch in your favor. So tell me about that, because that's, I'm sure people are listening going, tell me how to do that.
Absolutely. Here's what it comes down to. Virtually every medical school and medical doctor on the planet for the last 30 years has said that 80 to 95% of all illness and disease comes from stress. And guys, I'm talking about the United States government, a research article on the CDC website in Atlanta. The United States government says over 90% of illness and disease is directly related to stress. Stanford University and Dr. Bruce Lipton says, no, it's over 95% of all illness and disease. So if you're talking about health, it all comes down to stress on a physiological level. There's no doubt about it. It's not even news. It's so accepted. Now, so the question becomes, what causes the stress? And for decades, we thought it was our external circumstances. And even the stress questionnaires that people used to take to determine how stressed they were would say, okay, has your house burned down? Have you lost your job? Has someone close to you died? All about external circumstances. And those things can cause stress. But in the last 6 to 8 years, what they've discovered in the lab at our best medical schools is that there's a second kind of stress. And the second kind of stress is internal stress, not external, and it controls the external. Let me give you an example. There's two people in rush hour traffic, okay? Exact same circumstances. They're in cars right next to each other in bumper-to-bumper rush hour traffic. Exact same circumstances. This happens every single day, all over the country, all over the world. One of them is going into road rage. You can just see their blood pressure going up, all right? Those veins popping in their forehead and their neck, and they're cussing and yelling, and they're banging on the steering wheel, and, you know, they're angry and very, very stressed, okay? Some people have a heart attack in that situation. The person right next to them in the exact same external circumstances is cool as a cucumber, singing along to the radio, talking on the phone. Hey, honey, let's watch a movie tonight. Yeah, I'll be home in about 30 minutes. I'm in traffic, but, you know, it's all right. I'm just enjoying myself. Well, what's the difference? The externals are all the same. The only possible difference are the internals. And that's what we've discovered, is that the internal programming controls the external. In 2004, September the 12th, 2004, the Dallas Morning News, a news article came out about research that was just being released from Southwestern University Medical Center in Dallas, Texas, a mainstream American medical school and medical center. They're interviewing Dr. Eric Nestler, who's from Harvard, who's the head of the department. And Dr. Nestler says, and I just love him because of how honest he is, he says, you know, until today, in standard medicine, most of our treatments are little more than a Band-Aid. They address a disease or illness's symptoms, but not its source. And now here comes the punchline from Dr. Nestler. We have finally uncovered, tested, found, and proven the one true source of virtually any health problem you can ever have. And once we figure out how to fix it, it will mean the difference between life and death. It'll mean the difference between success and failure. You name it. It's the switch. And he said we are calling it cellular memories. Since that time, a number of other universities have replicated the same research with the same result. So this has been validated now.
Okay.
And let me tell you what it is. Just get rid of the word cellular. Cellular memories, get rid of the word cellular. That'll confuse you. It's just your memories. They added cellular because we used to think the memories were all in the brain until they cut out every part of the brain and the memories were still there. And then they discovered that the memories are in cells all over the body, and that's why they started calling them cellular memories, but it's just your memory. So if you have a memory with fear in it or anger or sadness or low self-worth or I can't do it or it's not going to work or I'm not attractive enough, the economy's too bad, my dad got cancer, so I'm going to get that, my mom got heart disease, so I'm liable to get that, my neighbor got diabetes, I wonder if I've got that. Those memories, we used to think unless you're thinking about them, they just sort of sit there and behave themselves and don't bother anything. Now, we always knew if you think about it, you start to feel bad. So we just don't think about them. And we thought, okay, if I'm not thinking about them, it's okay. Today we know nothing could be further from the truth. Those memories act like little radio stations, and they broadcast that fear. They broadcast that anger. They broadcast that low self-worth signal to the surrounding cells and cause them to go into closed self-protection death mode, death and disease mode, and to the hypothalamus in the brain, which flips the switch. What switch? The stress switch. And there comes 80 to 95% of all illness and disease and any other problem you can ever have in your life. Why any other problem? Because stress does 5 things. Number 1, it suppresses your immune system. That's where the sickness and disease come from. Number 2, it drains your energy. Number 3, it dumbs you down. Number 4, it causes you to come at whatever you're doing from a negative perspective. And number 5, it causes you to fail because it does the first 4. So those memories, as long as that fear, anger, low self-worth, whatever it is that's in those memories stays there, your stress switch is going to be flipped on, and all of those things, including health, including success, are going to suffer. And to the point of illness and disease or failure, okay? Now, if you can heal the anger or low self-worth or fear that are in those memories, guess what? The surrounding cells open back up and start to heal, and the hypothalamus in the brain turns the stress switch off, and your immune system starts to heal whatever needs to be healed. You're smartened up. You have loads of energy. That's usually the first thing we hear from people is, I feel like I'm 20 again. I've got so much energy. You start coming at life from a positive perspective, and you start to succeed. And all that happened is you went to the root source, those cellular memories, you healed them, and flipped the switch back the other way. Now, that is the only thing the healing codes do, is when you do a healing code, it activates a mechanism that's inside of your body. We didn't know it was inside of your body until about 12 years ago, but now we know. So it activates a mechanism that automatically finds the memories that are resonating destructive signals. It's kind of like saying, okay, we're going to find every radio station playing country music. Okay, now I like country music, so I probably shouldn't use that example. But you get the idea. But instead of country music, it's looking for every memory that's resonating a destructive signal: fear, anger, sadness, low self-worth. It's not going to work for me. I'm going to get cancer. I'm going to get heart disease. And it neutralizes the destructive signal. Now, that means 2 things. Number 1, it means that you've just healed a memory. You can still remember that memory maybe, but it's not going to make you feel bad like it would have before. And number two, it's going to cause the hypothalamus in the brain to turn the stress switch off. And according to Dr. Bruce Lipton at Stanford Medical School, the great majority of the memories that cause these problems are in your un- and subconscious. And the definition of that is you don't know what they are. So you have to do this, a mechanism that finds and fixes them automatically. If it only works on the ones you know about, you're still going to be left with your same problem, according to the research. The healing codes goes under the surface, heals the ones you know about, but also heals the ones you don't know about, and does it automatically. The average healing code takes about 6 minutes to do. You can do it lying down, sitting up, standing, walking. There's nothing to take. There's nothing to quit taking. It does not involve exercise. It does not involve having to, focus on a certain kind of thought or meditation or affirmations or anything like that. It's a literal physical mechanism on your body that takes about 6 minutes to activate with your fingers. Okay? A 7-year-old can do it unassisted, and we know because a whole bunch of them have. And here's how it works. In the back of the Healing Codes manual is an index of problems. There's hundreds of them listed in alphabetical order, some of them physical, some of them non-physical. You go to that index, you find your problem. I already said they're in alphabetical order. There'll be a page number beside that problem. You go to that page number and you'll find the healing code for that issue. You do it. Again, takes about 6 minutes. You can do it as little as once a day, or you can do it as many times a day as you would like. Some people want faster results, so they do it 5 or 6 times a day. Some just do it once. Okay? That's up to you. You do it until the problem gets better, and then once the problem gets better, you say, okay, what's bothering me the most now? And you go back to the index, find the code for that problem, and continue. And that's as simple as it is.
Wow. So it really is a 6-minute process, basically.
It is. Yes, ma'am.
That's amazing. Now, is there anything, and by the way, something that I just want to say to everybody and why I'm so excited about having you here is because, yes, this series is Manifest Everything Now, but what we all know, or what I hope you all know at this point from being with me for so long, is that if you're not healthy and truly healthy within yourself, whatever that means, whether it's your physical body, your emotional self, that shuts down your capacity for manifesting the things you desire. So that's why this is so very important. So my question to you, is there an exercise or anything that you could quickly lead us through here to sort of give us some insight into this? I don't even know if that's possible.
It's not in this amount of time. I will go a little farther. The healing code is the discovery of 4 healing centers on the body that, to our knowledge, have never been discovered before. I already said it's not acupuncture, Reiki, yoga, whatever. It's nothing you've ever seen before. You activate them with your fingertips in a particular sequence, and with the program, there's what is called a quick start video that will have you started healing your issue within 30 minutes of when you get the program. And so you see there, it takes about 30 minutes to learn how to do it with visuals. So we've got about, a lot less than that, and without visuals. So I doubt I can do that. But it'll take you 30 minutes or less to learn how to do the process, and it's the activation of 4 healing centers. Now, you can also do it on other people, so you can do it on infants. You can do it on elderly people who maybe can't or aren't willing to do it for themselves. You can do it on pets. We've got one of our coaches that we call the vet, who loves animals and specializes in animals. And one of my favorite things to do is sometimes we get together and have dinner, and he'll be there. And he can tell you stories about healing in animals that you just won't believe. It's just unbelievable. Like we've all seen the three-legged dog who's injured a leg and kind of runs on three legs, and you see that and you sort of say, oh, and it makes you sad, but you're still glad that the dog is living life. One of his stories was doing a healing code on a dog like that had been like that for many years. And by the next day, the dog was running normally on all fours again. Wow. I mean, it's just unbelievable. Another dog that the vet had sent home to die in advanced kidney failure, and had done all the x-rays and everything to confirm it. And less than 24 hours later, the dog is completely normal, running around. The owner takes it back to the vet, and the vet runs the test again and said, this is the miracle of my practice. I've never seen or heard of anything like this. And wow. I told you Dr. Ben Johnson, the only medical doctor in The Secret, was diagnosed by two doctors of Lou Gehrig's disease, ALS, the most dreaded killer on the planet right now, and started doing the codes totally in desperation, had nothing to lose, and less than 2 months later goes back, has the test run, is completely symptom-free, not a trace of the problem, and resigned as director of the cancer clinic at that point. And just, I could talk all day about the stories of people all over the world.
Yeah, it's amazing. I mean, and when you hear the results, and also I love that, part of it is what you were sharing about being on those, CBS, NBC, all of that. They had to completely vet you to make sure that this was all legit. So I love that too, because this isn't just sort of like hocus pocus. You have the stories and the proof to back it up. So I love that.
One of the things I'll tell you real quickly, one of the things
Sure.
that I think was kind of the last straw for all of those shows, to where they just kind of threw up their hands and said, okay, well, we can't think of anything else. I guess we'll have to have him on, is I was invited to speak at a big international health conference that they have every year with thousands of people. And I was invited to be one of the keynote speakers, and they said, we would ask you while you're here. I was speaking every night, but during the day I wasn't doing anything. And they said, instead of just sitting by the pool all day, we would like to ask you, we will take appointments, and for you to give the healing code, the appropriate healing code to people who make appointments for whatever their biggest problem is, and we will track their results and publish the results after the conference is over. And I said, well, sure, I'll do that. That sounds good. I get tired of sitting by the pool pretty quick. And so over 3 days, they had booked 142 appointments for me.
Wow.
Okay, those are really, really busy days.
Oof.
And so I came home, and the doctor who had asked me to be on the program, she called me when I got home, and she said, we're sending you a letter to this effect, and the letter is in the program if you decide to get it, a copy of that letter. But she said, I want to tell you two things. First of all the years we've been doing this conference, we've invited the keynote speaker to do what we invited you to do. And we want to congratulate you because to date, you are the first one who has agreed to do it.
Wow.
Yeah, you know why, don't you? Because they said they were going to publish the results after it was over. Yeah, and I told you when I first started talking about how most of these things don't work very well. So they said, first of all, congratulations for that. And second of all, we did exactly what we said we were going to do. We tracked the results. So these are we took an anonymous exit poll survey. So after I gave people the code and they had done it for the biggest issue of their life, then they filled out this anonymous questionnaire. And she said, we're sending you the results, but here they are. 142 out of 142 that you gave those codes to anonymously self-reported that the biggest issue of their life had gone to zero with one code within a few minutes. The longest one took 20 some odd minutes, and all the others were shorter than that, but 142 out of 142. Well, that's what those news programs are scared of. One of the things is that this will sound great, but it'll work on one person in two or one person in three.
Sure.
And so that was very important to them because they knew from that and talking to other people that this is something that works not just every once in a while, but virtually every time for every person.
Wow. Yeah, that's incredible. And actually, I know that at this point, people are like, please, I'm sure he's put something together for us. Can you tell us the link? So I am going to jump in and do that. And that is, just everybody listening, this is why I'm doing this. I get excited about being able to help people take control of their life. And there's so much more that you can learn from Dr. Alex. And like I said, I asked him to create a special offer for everyone who's listening to this call. I highly encourage you to go to Dr. Alex's special offer right now to experience this for yourself, because it truly is incredible. And it really is a matter of, would you say that for us to be happy and healthy effortlessly, it really is a matter of these four energy centers is what you call them, I believe, correct?
Well, I would say it's a matter of healing your memories, and the energy centers are an automated way we've found to do that.
Wonderful. Okay, so everybody click on the special offer button that's on this webpage, and we will take you right there. And Dr. Alex, take it away. Let us know what we'll find there.
Yeah, the first thing, and maybe the most important, is a 1-year unconditional, no questions asked, money-back guarantee. Everyone that we talk to tells us we're absolutely nuts to do that, but we've done it from day one because we want you to already have the results before you're on the hook for the purchase. So that is very important to us. And by the way, we don't have many returns. If you use this, chances are you'll never send it back. The second thing is that this is a one-time purchase for your whole family. This is not a starter thing. This is not the first step. This is the whole deal for life, for you and your family. Every code you could ever need for yourself, your children, your grandchildren, your pets, everything. I believe in nutrition. I already said that. And I take a couple of nutritions that are like $50 per month each, and so, for one person. And so I have 4 people in my family. So if I want all 4 of us to benefit from that, and I do, that's $200 a month for 1 month. Right. For my family. If I want to keep getting the benefit of that, I got to keep paying that $200 every month. The cost of this, I believe, is $199 total, and you can do it on a payment plan if you like. When we first introduced the codes in 2004, the cost was $800, okay? Wow. And we weren't trying to get rich. That was the cheapest we could figure out how to deliver everything we needed to deliver. Over the years, we've been able to repackage and to streamline some things, and now we can deliver everything you need for $199, which includes live coaching twice a week for as long as you need it, okay? Wow. You call up, there's a live person there, you can ask questions, they can take you by the hand over the phone from where you are to where you're trying to get, and that is unlimited twice a week. It includes the videos, audios, it includes coaching audios that go more into depth about how to do this and the critical components and how to address different issues. It comes with a very extensive manual, about 200 pages, large pages, single print. It's not that it's that complicated. It's written for all learning styles. And one of the learning styles is I want all the data. I want all the information. I want everything. So whether you're a visual learner, audio learner, you're the one that wants all the research, you've got it. Now, that's not my personality. Mine's just tell me what to do and let me do it. Okay? So if that's you, you've got that too. So however you learn, you've got it. But it's everything you need for life with a money-back guarantee for the whole family, $199. You can do it on payment plan. You know, that's the best we can do is put all of that together for $199 for life.
It's such an amazing thing that you've put together. And actually, typically what I would do is ask you, you know, what are some of the benefits people could expect to experience right away? But instead, what I would love to do is I would love to read to everybody. There is one testimonial on this page from a gentleman named David that it really answers what happens almost instantly as well as what can happen over time. So David said, I've had scoliosis since I was 7, and I wore a body cast for about 5 years. By the time I hit my 20s, I was in chronic pain. Over the years, I've done chiropractic work, yoga, body work, supplements, and the list goes on. It was always very momentary relief. After applying the healing codes from the first time I did it, I felt dramatic results. First, and this is to answer this question, everybody, of what you'll feel, you know, right away. First, I felt deep relaxation and a sense of peace. All my body pain was gone, and I felt much lighter and more calm, focused, and fluid in my body movements. It's been 30 years that I've had this pain, and now I'm free of it. I'm ready to enjoy life. And that was submitted by someone named David who used the healing code. So this is an incredible opportunity. So go ahead, click on that special offer button, and you'll see for yourself. And Dr. Alex Loyd, you are one of the most positive energies that I come across in getting to do this amazing thing that I get to do. And I thank you so much for sharing that with us so willingly and so effortlessly. And is there anything you want to share with us before we say goodbye to you today?
Yes, there is, Kristen. And first of all, it's my pleasure. Thank you for having me. And it's 3 things, and this may be the most important thing I've said all day. And you may not completely understand it unless you get the program and read why I say this. But number 1, it's not your fault. I don't care what you're going through or what you've done. It's not your fault. Number 2, the solution is not trying harder. If it's a willpower-based thing, chances are it's not going to work. That is not the solution. And number 3, I know there's people listening to this who feel like they're at the end of their rope, like Hope, my wife, and I did. It's been my experience over the last 11 years that almost no matter where you are now, you can still get to where you want to be and maybe even beyond. I'm certainly living beyond. But those 3 things, I hope that's maybe a little bit of hope.
I love that. There's something so profound to that. It's not your fault, no matter what you've done and what you've experienced or what you haven't done. I know a lot of people struggle with that who are listening.
Right.
It's that it's not your fault, but also, and correct me if I'm wrong here, it's not too late.
Absolutely. And Kristen, we talk to so many people who believe it is too late. And that's one of my very favorite things is when someone who has felt that way is healed. Man, I just feel like I could jump to the moon. And my wife will tell you that's my favorite thing, and I'll come running through the house, you know, when I get those emails and say, hey, look what happened to John in Oregon. So I completely agree with you.
And that's one of my sort of things that I am most passionate about as well. So I think we definitely share that. So everybody, you know, this is so important. It is not too late. No matter what it is not too late. Thank you all for being here, because without you, I have no one to bring amazing people like Dr. Alex Loyd to. So thank you to Dr. Alex Loyd. Thank you to everybody listening. You're all absolutely magnificent, and I am honored to be sharing this time with each and every one of you.